Shout out to Open Fortune for making today's episode possible. Welcome to the podcast. Today we have a powerhouse in the marketing world joining us, Ivone Kinzer. Ivone is a true trailblazer known for pushing boundaries and driving brands to new heights with her creativity and innovative strategies. With over 20 years in the industry, she's racked up more than 40 accolades, including being the first Latina to win the Marketing Lifetime Achievement Award for the DFW American Marketing Association. She's also been named one of the 100 most influential Latinas in the U.S. for 2 years running. Ivone's career is nothing short of impressive. She led the charge in digital marketing for avocados from Mexico, turning it into one of the most innovative brands in the world, according to Fast Company. And that's just one highlight. She also pioneered digital marketing for American Airlines across 20 Latin American countries way back in 2002. But Ivone doesn't stop at marketing. She's also an author of the Amazon bestseller Think and currently serves as the CMO of Hoplark while leading Vantage Creative and Bridge by Design as CEO. Plus, she's a go-to innovation advisor for brands in the CPG and hospitality sectors and a regular lecturer at Mexico's top business school, IPADE. Ivone's approach to marketing is anything but traditional. She's all about bold creativity and unconventional problem solving. So I have to ask you, Ivone, how did you end up here today?
Well, by the way, I brought you a book. You remind me that I brought you a book. I give it to you guys in a minute. So you say how I end up here today?
Yeah.
Well, you guys invited me to come to the podcast, and I told you that if you're looking for a traditional CMO, I'm not your person.
Yeah.
But if you are open to new way that I'm reinventing the title and the role of a CMO, then I'm just perfect guest for you.
And talk to me about that unconventional path, right? What did you want to be when you grew up, and how did that kind of pivot into your current career?
Yeah. You know, interesting enough, I didn't think about advertising or marketing as my first option, and I actually went to law school for a year. At some point, I realized that that's not what I wanted, first of all, but also there's something very similar, believe it or not, which is when you study law, it's just about understanding the Constitution in the case of law, but adding your own critical thinking and point of view and understanding and combining different tools that you have in the Constitution to get to the outcome that you are expecting. The same with marketing, but you have the consumer. Instead of being in the frame of the law, you're in the frame of the market, the consumer, the branding. But basically, the thinking exercise is the same. Sure. And I just fall in love with it. It's lighter.
When did you realize you were falling in love with it throughout your career? I have a say. I always say the fish doesn't know that it's wet. So you don't understand your context until you are out of it and you see it from outside. So I went into marketing thinking that it was a one-fits-all. I actually started with advertising agencies, and I thought this is a one-fits-all. I mean, creatives, account service, this is just the same. It's marketing. And what I got to realize is that every one of those roles are completely different and require a completely different skill set, soft and hard skills. And at some point, I went through sometimes doing a job for which I was a misfit, and a misfit not in the positive way like I use it sometimes, but I was not a good fit. And until I discovered that I'm more the creative side. What about that creative side did you really love?
I'm going to say this many times, because the fish doesn't know that it's wet. I don't know how other people think. I only know what is in my head. So for me, always early on, I realized that I have it's very easy for me to connect ideas and connect unrelated ideas and concepts. But at that point, I didn't know that was not the case for everybody else. And when I start learning more, the more I start learning about other people and how they approach creativity, for example, and how easy or hard it is for them, I realize that I have those skills that are naturally in me, and I just need to be on that side of the
Sure.
business. Now, it's hard to do it on the agency side. So when I went to the brand side, you get to see the entire picture, because sometimes the ideas, the greatest ideas are not isolated in one little bucket. The greatest ideas come when you are able to understand every little piece of the business. And that, and I'm sorry all the agencies right now, but I think that the agency model is broken in the sense that you have those talents isolated into little buckets instead of giving the talent and the people the opportunity to really understand the business from all the perspectives.
Yeah, and I agree with you as well. Like, we often say the agency model is broken. I ran my own agency as well and realized that the agency model was broken from that. But how did you get to that end of the concept and understanding that the agency model is broken?
Because of my own way of thinking. Like, when I was seeing, I had that vision of a great idea with a very strong strategic foundation, and all of a sudden I have to start and stop because it's some other department. And then I'm looking at this solution here and I have to start and stop because I have to make sure that the other department is aligned. And then I have this vision that I strongly believe in. I know that it's going to work. First of all, because I always say that things don't just work. The people doing the things make them work. So, but when you have to start and stop and start and stop and start and stop, then how can you materialize a vision if you have all these barriers? And the larger is the organization, the worse that situation gets.
Yeah.
So as a brand, because I wear like two hats, as a brand, I think it's a waste of opportunity. I would love for someone in my agency. There's a lot of talent, a lot of intelligence. Someone just go free and look at every piece of the business.
So when you're pitching your agency, right, obviously that made you want to start your own agency. What is the pitch to a client? Why are you guys so different, and how are you spreading that your talent's not too thin throughout that process?
Yeah, and we didn't talk about it, but yes, I do have an agency that I started with when I left Avocado from Mexico, but then I realized that I also like that CMO role, so I'm doing both right now. I have one amazing person that actually went to school with me in Venezuela, managing the agency and the operation. I'm involved in the strategy,
Sure.
And I have a relationship with clients, but I'm also more focused on my CMO part. But how we approach the potential client is I don't start by the capabilities that the agency have. That doesn't matter. That is completely irrelevant for someone that is not needing those capabilities, or for someone that doesn't have any clear objective of what they need. The way I approach it is by bringing their challenge and a solution to that challenge. So my first question or my first approach is not, hey, I have an agency and those ABC. My first question is, do you have a challenge that nobody else had been able to solve? Everybody has one. Say yes, I say, okay, let us bring you a solution. If you like it, great. If you don't, then fine. Yeah. But if we're able to bring that solution, and using creativity, of course, and in a disruptive, unique way that they haven't been presented with before, then you get that client.
Yeah, I really love that question that you ask yourself, because it's a better question than what does success look like, right? It's exactly what the problem they've been trying to solve for a long time, and if you can do that, then you're doing something right. I want to talk about your background from Venezuela, right? Growing up there as well, what was the main difference in marketing that you've noticed from Latin America to North America?
That's really hard to say because I have been in this country for 24 years, so my marketing career was really developed here. So I don't have any real marketing experience in Venezuela, but I can tell you now, knowing the markets and knowing, for example, my role with American Airlines, where I oversaw the account for 20 countries across Latin America, those are smaller markets. When you have a small market, it's more homogeneous, and of course, there's nuances and across different demographics, but the United States is just, as a market, is the most complex market in the continent, at least. And that's what makes things so challenging, because budgets are limited, of course. Money is not unlimited, but still you have to be really, really, really smart about your segmentation. I was reading the other day, because there was a conversation with a brand that I'm working with. There are between 200 and 300 different religions, for example, in this one market.
Yeah.
In Venezuela, you have 3, maybe. So all those nuances in every layer of society makes the marketing a lot more complex.
Totally. I can only imagine, and that is, a really good insight, because America is not very homogenous, right? It is extremely, extremely huge, and there are people and diverse. But I also wanted to ask you about Hoplark. I am a huge fan of the brand. I was super excited when you were coming on. I've been drinking Hoplark for probably over a year right now.
Oh, wow.
And I saw it in retail, I think, for the first time. Loved the design, picked it up, and then loved the product, and the product had me coming back. What made Hoplark the right opportunity for you to jump in and sink your teeth into?
So first of all, since my experience and my tenure with Avocado from Mexico, I got to develop this passion for small food brands. Avocado from Mexico is not a small brand anymore, but when I started, we were less than 10 people. There was not even a website, so I built the capabilities. And I absolutely love that stage of a brand, and just growing it. And you don't have a playbook because it's small and new. So there's no such a thing as, that's not how we have done it in the past. You pretty much have a white canvas to build your marketing and the future of your brand. So Hoplark is in that stage right now. It's a very disruptive brand. The concept itself is disruptive. It's a category that doesn't exist. So you're not only creating a brand, you are competing with a non-existing category that at some point one of those brands are going to own it.
Sure.
And the brand is just, innovation is in their DNA. We launch one innovation per month.
What are some of the innovations that you've launched recently?
Within the same products, so we have the portfolio, which is Hop Waters and Hop Teas, but also every month we launch an innovation. That could be, for example, a collaboration with another brand. We collaborate with another brand that I also have worked with in the past, which is Miche Mix, that is entering the US. It's a Michelada mix.
Yep.
So when Hoplark launched the Mexican lager, that was an innovation.
Yep.
And I'm seeing, Hoplark, Mexican lager, and Miche Mix, Michelada mix, a Mexican product, Mexican brand getting into the US, and Hoplark as Americans as it can be. But if you bring those two together, you create the first non-alcoholic Michelada in a can.
Yeah.
So that type of collaboration, also when you have small brands that are hungry and disruptive, you just need a great idea, and the collaboration happened like that. Is what do we need to do, how you do it, exactly.
You're nimble, and that's really cool. And the first time I was introduced, right, I was first introduced to Hop Water, right, and I liked the product, but I was like, I don't know if the branding really felt like me. And then I picked up Hoplark, and I drink it a really good amount, right? But I'm curious, how do you go about educating a consumer about a space that people know about it, right? The non-alcoholic beer space is popping off, right? But this isn't a non-alcoholic beer, really, right? It's non-alcoholic. It's seltzer, hop water. I don't know how you really define it, but how do you go about educating somebody who's new, and how do you go about finding that consumer when it is so new?
That's a great question, because that's exactly where we are right now. Hoplark is a leader in the category, and there's pros and cons from being a leader, right? So the pros is obvious, but the cons is you have to create the narrative and present a product within a category that is not even known.
Yep.
So the hop, when you tell any consumer hop, they immediately think about beer. But really, the hop is just one ingredient. If you
Sure.
take the ingredient separated from the beer, you can do anything with it. So what we did is we brew tea as beer with hop. The hop water, for example, has two ingredients, water and hop. So it's like 0 calories, 0 carbs, 0 alcohol. Now, how you label that? That's
Sure.
marketing, strategy marketing work. How you educate the consumer first to understand hop as an ingredient, isolated that from anything else, and then how you educate the consumer about this new product that is being made with hop and other natural ingredients.
Totally, and you brought up earlier your agency, and I'm curious if it's just what we brought up, and if so, we can move on, right? But you brought up that question for your agency. What are the problems that you're have been having struggles solving? What is that for Hoplark, and how are you addressing those?
Yeah, no, you know what? That's a great point, because you asked me why Hoplark, and I like brands with a problem to solve.
Yeah.
I couldn't,
especially at that stage, right? Because if you're at that stage, you have plenty of problems, right?
Right. So I wouldn't be a good fit for a brand that thinks they have everything already figured it out, and I just have to put it in automatic pilot. I really like to dig into how we solve that problem. The first problem was like, how do we define a product in a category that doesn't have any awareness or have minimum awareness? So that's an amazing problem to solve from the marketing perspective. And if you put that in the CPG and in the food and beverage category, it's a marketer's dream. For me, that I love like small brands. So I think awareness is the main challenge. But this other thing, when I start talking to them, and I can hear all you want about what is it, but you don't understand until you try it. So once I opened that first can, the smell, the taste, it was like,
I agree.
I get it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I have the same experience. I'm curious to know that first purchase, right, is really like, then you get a long-term value on that customer, right? It's important. What's your split between retail, right, of that first impression and D2C, and how are you trying to double down on both or one individually?
So we're in both. We're hyper-focused on D2C.
Okay.
We have seen everything. First of all, we're more in control, but also we have seen that when consumers taste the product, they absolutely love it. So we need to put cans on hands.
Sure.
You put a can on hand and you have a customer, for sure. It's what we have seen. And I guess, D2C gives us more data, more insights, more real-time insights, and it allows us to establish a relationship with the consumer. And the good thing is, it's doing really well, that side of the business. So then we're doubling down in nurturing that consumer group that is buying directly.
Got it. And what are you super excited about what you're building now and building on for the future?
You know, the most exciting thing about the future is that we don't know what is ahead, right? So I think that if we knew everything that is going to happen, it will stop being exciting. It's in the discovery process where I think that I find marketing most fascinating.
Sure.
Is coming to these conferences, for example, and listen what they are saying, but you're listening to words and trying to anticipate the future and how a future will look like based on the signals that you're listening to right now, which is not the same that taking things like literally and executing accordingly, because then you become a Me Too brand.
Perfect.
But it's how can you interpret those signals, take a little bit of risk to try new things based on those signals and be first.
Absolutely.
And grow the market and be first and innovate and be different. Even with platforms that exist, when you tweak them a little bit in a certain way, you have something very unique.
Sure. I have to ask you, you spoke about your book before. What made you want to write a book? That's a very daunting task to a lot of people. It takes a lot of time. And how has that experience been for you?
So this is my book. It's called Think. And I'm always thinking and reflecting. I want to understand things with curiosity and with awe, like trying to decipher what that means in a context or moving to a context. So what makes me write it is that actually during the pandemic, I, walked a lot around a canal that is next to my house, and everybody knows this. When you're in nature, your creative juices like flow, and I started really reflecting on creativity and what makes some people more creative than others. Reading a lot about it, and I started taking notes. And when I look at, I have enough notes to write at least a couple of chapters. And then I thought, it's now or never. I'm going to write a book. Once I started, I realized what I got myself into. This is not, a walk in the park. But I was already started. So I already started. I better finish. It took me 3 years with a full-time job, of course, because I didn't write every day. But once I finish it, and I especially promote it in colleges and universities, and I see the reaction of the students and how they get motivated, because it really inspires people to get more creative and think boldly. I realized why I did it, and it's one of the projects in my entire career or life that makes me the most proud.
I'm really excited to read through it and see what you have to say. I have to ask as well, if there was one thing that you wanted our listeners to take out of this episode, or one thing that you would want readers to take out of that book, what would it be?
Actually, now that you mentioned that, I'm going to close with something that I told you at the beginning of our conversation is, things don't just work on their own. You don't put a project there and it works. People make it work. And the belief that you can make it work, of course, with the right strategy and the right information, then the success is guaranteed. So that's why I will always call people to take risk, think boldly, think creatively, be unique, be original, because you can make a difference, and to anything, any endeavor that you have ahead of you. But I think that this world, the progress of the world, innovation come from people like you and I and everybody around here that there at some point to take a risk and do what nobody else had done before.
Absolutely, and I think that's a perfect place to start wrapping this up, but that was beautifully said. And what is the name of the book for our listeners?
It's Think.
Perfect. And where can they find it?
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, but in Amazon you have a coffee table version, you have this paperback version, and you also have Audible.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I can't wait to check it out. Let's hit our quick question round and start wrapping this up, all right?
Okay.
All right, before we get started with this quick question round, got to give a big shout out to Open Fortune. Gary Vaynerchuk, if you're familiar with him, said he only believes in 4 types of marketing: influencer marketing, biddable media, the Super Bowl, and Open Fortune. It's because there's one-to-one interaction with the fortune cookie is so special. So shout out to Gary V, shout out to Open Fortune for making this one possible. All right, person you'd most want to sit down to dinner with, dead or alive?
Oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm gonna say this, but I'm a big time Swiftie, so I will say Taylor Swift.
Okay, there you go. Favorite city in the world?
Colombia.
Colombia. Or what is it?
Colombia.
Colombia?
Yeah, and I'm not Colombian, I'm Venezuelan, but it's the energy of Colombia, I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Is it okay to sleep with socks on?
No.
No, okay.
No, because I get really hot.
Favorite romantic comedy?
One Fine Day.
Okay. Best spot to eat nearby your spot?
The Mexican in Dallas.
In 40 years, what will people be nostalgic for?
Everybody will be nostalgic for the past because that's what we are as humans.
Top 3 CMOs right now?
I will say Marisa Jara, 7-Eleven, Casey Hoover, Rocket Mortgage, and MasterCard Raja.
What's the worst advice you've ever been given?
Take it slowly.
One sentence, how would you sum up the internet?
Profound.
And last one, in 10 years, where can we catch you?
Probably one of these conferences trying to predict the future.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us. That was wonderful.